Howdy amateurs, welcome to a new video. I want to be frank with you. This won't be the best video you've ever seen. If you looked at the title of the video, you'll see I'm switching out some parts of my computer. I'm really excited to do it, and I already spent an hour trying to get a proper setup to get the video made. This is what I get for being an amateur YouTuber. So you're obviously going to see me mess with parts from a different angle, and I'll talk you through it. But let's roll the intro to get us started. Before I move my camera to give you a better look into the PC, I'll give a proper explanation of what I'm doing. So recently I've got a new video card, and with it a new power supply. These are the boxes, the two parts I have in my PC already. So the GPU or video card I have in my system right now is currently the GTX 1660. And of course I have a EVGA 600 watt power supply for my system. They're not one for one, but I'll explain the relationship between the GPU and the power supply in a second. But I got from a friend at a really good price, and of course I'll talk more about it during the video while I'm blabbing as I'm doing stuff, is a brand new RTX 2080 with a 850 watt power supply to go with it. And again, if none of those numbers make any sense to you, I'll explain more when we get into it. Cool transition time. Here we are. This is already shaping up to be the best computer video you've ever seen. I know it. But anyways, so again, here's the PC. It's the same PC that you saw in a video I made a while back. But today gives me a new reason to talk about some of the finer details about it, other than replacing a power supply and a GPU. So it is a bit dirty because I just pulled it from where it stood, so you might not be able to see it, but I can see it and I feel embarrassed about it. Very well. So the first thing I would like to talk about before I get anywhere is how much I like this case. No, I'm not. If you're watching this, no, I'm probably not at this point affiliated with the brand, nor am I making a attempt to do it. I'm just telling you firsthand from another amateur, I really like this case. It cost me $80. It's really big. I've had no problem putting parts into it. Comes with 3 fans with a little bit of color. As you see when I get into the back of it, really good for cable management. Like, I've had no problem building this. So if you're wanting to get into pieces and you don't mind how big it is, because computers, you can get cases smaller, but if it's going to tuck away under a desk somewhere and you don't mind how big it is, this is a really good fit. Something I've done to the PC since y'all seen it last is there's a second hard drive in here that you might see when I unplug it, because I am taking out the power supply, you know, just so the viewer doesn't think there's any wizardry going on. Very well. So what I'm doing now is pulling out some of the screws in the back of this case. So another reason why this case and newer cases are amazing is they have these bits in the back that you can remove that help support heavy items, and like a big graphics card, and as there's a slot down here that I took out for my Wi-Fi card and everything. But I'm having to unscrew some bits because, like I said, I'm removing my GPU. So I'm trying to be really careful here because where this plugs in, there's little clips, and I want to make sure it's unclipped when I try to pull the chips out, just so I don't break it. It's not like it's the most delicate thing in the world, but it, you know, I don't want to force anything either. Oh shit, there we go. So that's a 1660 GPU. So now what I'm going to do is go around and plug everything that supplied power, so I can then pull out my power supply. So I'll take a moment just to box this up. So a bit of small talk. Why do I have a new GPU and why am I replacing it? Is there anything wrong with this GPU I have? No, there's nothing wrong. It works for me perfectly. I've had no issues with it. But I am upgrading for really no other sake than to upgrade. Well, here's kind of the story around what I call the new GPU. If you know about GPUs, you'll know that that is an older, not the brand new, it's a couple years old. However, there's a new crop of GPUs that have recently come out, and then people are selling their old ones. For a while, you know, the market was jacked and everything was way more expensive than it should have been. But I got this one, the new GPU I'm putting in here, from a friend at a reduced cost. So I got a great deal on it. I trust the person, so I know there's nothing wrong with the GPU. And this GPU and this power supply can go to another friend of mine. I'm not sure who's getting it yet, but I've got a couple of friends that are considering building PCs, so they'll get a GPU and a power supply and be less than $500 away from building their own PC. So it'll bless, so this power supply will bless someone now. So before I went on my tangent, why do I have a new one? You know, why spend the money even if it was cheap? Well, it is the new one that's new to me is a more powerful GPU. How powerful? Well, I'm not going to give you any numbers because if you want one, there's a bajillion benchmarks that will tell you way more information than I could tell you even if I did my own tests. But what I can tell you is it's significantly more powerful. So first I'll give it in more geeky terms, and then I'll explain it in a more layman terms. For geeky terms, it's a RTX 2080. So RTX versus the GTX in the name of the 1660 means I'm getting ray tracing now, which is pretty exciting. And it's also a 2880 versus 1660, which means it is two tiers higher, which I'll explain the tiers in a second, and it's a newer generation, which is pretty cool by itself. Yeah, I'm trying to be careful. I know it's slow. I'll cut out some stuff when I do the video myself, but I just don't want to break anything. So, as you might figure out if you ever do this stuff yourself, there are little clips that when you plug power in place, it clips into place just so, you know, your power doesn't come undone. I'm currently looking at the motherboard power. Okay, cool, one down. And then one that gets forgotten about is the one that goes to the CPU. So, you know, the last video I saw someone do this, they made sure to mention it, so I'll mention it. So there are two of these power plugs that are in the motherboard. One powers the motherboard, and one is specifically to go to the GPU over here. no, this fan isn't a GPU, or I'm saying a GPU. The CPU's in here. I'm dumb. I'm tired. I want to get this done. So just bear with me. So now I'm going to turn the system around and pull out the powers from the stuff behind. Anyways, as I was explaining earlier before my distraction kicked in, the new old GPU is significantly more powerful. It has 8 gigabytes of RAM, VRAM, video RAM, as you might say, than the other one. Ooh, okay.
Here's that one, and there's these two. Now,
okay, so continuing on the trend of using geeky terms to better explain the new GPU, the 1660, I've been able to do low powerful tasks in 1440, which is my monitor, and do decent gaming in it, which it hasn't been bad, and I've been able to dabble in Minecraft shaders and, you know, dabble with things that, you know, the 6 gigabytes of VRAM is good for, but the new one dabbles in 4K, which I'm not going to use. But since it dabbles in 4K, I'll be able to do a lot more things in 1440p. I'm burping like freaking Rick Sanchez over here. But with it, 2 more gigabytes of VRAM means I'm gonna kill some shaders. I actually have a shaders for Minecraft picked out, and I'm super excited to get into, and that'll probably be my next video. I'll talk more about that. Now for the layman's who might not be as familiar with computers and all the numbers I was just giving, you know, going over their heads, so this 2080, it's a generation newer, so it's just like, you know, getting a latest, you know, a newer model of iPhone in some ways, but it's also several tiers higher. So you might have a, you know, the normal iPhone, and then you might have like the iPhone Pro, you know, stuff like that, and that would be more comparable to what that is. Or in more layman terms, if this is you, this is the guy she tells you not to worry about. And now some of you, you know, might want to crap on me and go, but Subtleston, what about the newest GPUs? What are those? Well, the 30 series are like Chris Hemsworth and Chris Evans and The Rock, you know, the 3060 and all of them. Those aren't the guys that she tells you not to worry about. Those are the guys that everyone wants, that only a few people get, you know. Ha ha ha, I'm funny. What are you doing? And that's a power supply I just pulled out of my PC. So, again, like with the GPU, there's nothing wrong with this power supply for the GPU, but because I needed a bigger graphics card, I needed a bigger power supply. I'll box this up later. So, that's like a lot of cables. So, we generally have, so most people have a general idea of some different devices needing more power, but you might think, you know, both plugs into the wall, why doesn't both power computer parts? Well, that one draws more power, that GPU draws more power than that power supply is comfortable supplying, which, I mean, it just be like that. Oh, this is a nice, so that's rated at so that power supply is rated at 600 watts, which means it's comfortable at supplying 600 watts. This one's is comfortable at supplying 850 watts, which is more, which means it's built different, and all that jazz. All right, let's make sure this is recording properly. It is. Cool. Welcome back. So I paused it just because I knew I'd struggle a bit getting it out, doing everything. So I'll record the rest of me doing this, but I will speed it up. So what I'm about to do is put this back into place, screw it in, and then I have a couple of things plugged in, but I have a couple of things to still show being plugged in, strung out, and it's a mess right now, and I don't feel like explaining it because this is not a PC building video. So maybe that's rude of me, maybe it is, but that's fine. I'm just doing me, guys. I'm just doing me. There's probably someone that's like really good at building PCs, like having a cow watching me do all this. That's just icing on the cake. So earlier I had it screwed in already, but then I needed to pull it back out because I needed to get to the back of it. So small piece of interesting information, or maybe it's not, maybe it's boring, but either way, either way, this power supply is slightly different than my other one. So this is what you'll call a semi modular, and that one is not modular. So which means is it's the amount of cables that can be unplugged and plugged back in. So if you look at the back of this one, I'll make sure you can see that. You can see that all of these cables are just in there. There's no unplugging them. On the back of this one, some of them can be unplugged and some of them can't. Which means that if I didn't need all of the cables, I could unplug the ones I didn't need, and it provides the ones it knows I need. Like I will always have a motherboard to power up, I will always have a CPU to power up, and I'll generally always have a hard drive to pull information from. That's something I almost forgot, which would have been bad, is that I didn't plug in all of my power supply. That's not good. Cool. But things like my GPU and my fans, I didn't have plugged in at first. Those cables I had to put into the power supply myself. But I've got it figured out now.
Another tidbit of information is
I know it looks like this label's upside down, but I promise I'm putting it in right, because there's a fan in the power supply that I'm facing down into a vent made for it. So this was flipped the other way. You would see that there's a label that's flipped the other way. So I promise I'm not doing this wrong, at least that I don't know of yet. So I'm not going to put the back just on yet, because I'm going to probably want to get back here for some reason. I don't know what the reason is yet, but just because it'd be like that. So again, I'm going to plug this case. Great case. Like as you can see, it's not the easiest thing in the world getting all these cables into case, but it's a lot easier because of how it's built with the space and everything. So plug it again. I did buy a fan to put in the back, but it's got amazing airflow because this whole front is an open thing, and it keeps this PC real cool.
twist this around. So that power connector.
But it is for the motherboard. I'm gonna get my CPU plugged in. I'm going to pretend like I want to get my CPU plugged in. All right. The power should be plugged into everything except for the graphics card. But that's okay because I haven't put the graphics card in. So I'm going to do that now. Here it is. It's bigger than the box I got the other one in. 3-hole fans. Whew, that's a doozy.
You just like fucking that.
Look how big that boy is. That's a big boy. And I just, my God. Screw these cables in so we can support the weight of it. We got our two. This is going to be a little tight. We're going to plug in. Probably pressed in like that. So another cool thing about this power supply is all the cables are black. The cables in the other one were like red and yellows, but now it's all black in here. Very cool. So I'm gonna leave this section of the video like this because I'm probably gonna need to come back in here and fix something I missed. And that's just troubleshooting, but the fun bits are over. All the power cables are everywhere, and there's a new graphics card in here, and I'm gonna plug it in and mess with it because there's not going to be YouTube video posted if this thing doesn't work again. So I'm not going to post this video. There's no way I want to have the video done the night I did this. So tomorrow or the next day when I do all the editing, I will make any notes if I forgot anything. So until then. Howdy again, amateurs. Forgive the squeaky chair, but it is the next day. I have the video card set up and everything, and from what I showed you yesterday, I had done nothing wrong. You know, I plugged it in and turned it on, and everything was reading, everything that needed power, so everything was right. You know, I put both sides of the PC back together and got it working. I did spend an hour or so struggling with the drivers on the computer. If you follow me or you've gone back and seen my other videos, the video I posted before this when I showed off my Manjaro Linux OS, I had trouble with that. So if you run Windows, you know, and you did this, it meant you would have plugged your GPU in and wouldn't have had any troubles at all. You know, Linux is a bit more finicky sometimes, especially since the people who make these graphic cards are annoying when it comes to their software. You know, they try to be proprietary and they don't like playing nice with people. So I had to play with my OS because if it doesn't read the graphics card right, it won't even show stuff on the screen properly. So there's at one point where I thought I crashed my whole system, but it was okay. It just wasn't reading the graphics card. So I wound up, so if you know anything about Linux, you'll understand what I'm saying. I had to update the kernel to a newer kernel that supported the drivers that actually supported this graphics card. If none of that means anything to you, don't worry about it. You know, it wasn't that big of a deal. I figured it out. And my next video will be showing off the Minecraft shaders I mentioned earlier in this video that I found. I found them, set them up, got them working, and just blown away. I'm so super excited to get into it for the next video. And it shows that everything worked well, and this graphics card certainly works better than my old one, and I'll show you real quick, but this one lights up, and like when I first plugged it in and saw the graphics card lit up, I was very happy. So I'll show you. You know, forgive the messiness of my room, but it's probably upside down now. I don't care, I'll edit that out. But if you look at it, you know, you can see it light up the same as my CPU fan. If you remember a video earlier in the year, you'll remember the light strips that were lit up, but they haven't worked in a while, and I haven't cared enough to mess with it. So all in all, I'm super happy with it. Some of the quality of the video I got yesterday I wasn't particularly happy with, but it was already shot, and it's not something I can shoot again easily without going back and re-recording me putting my system together, and I am not going to do that, so my apologies. I'm an amateur. It's part of my YouTube shtick, so I can write it off for that. I've enjoyed making it. So synopsis, everything was successful. I have a half decent video that detailed me switching out my power supply and GPU with a new power supply and GPU. The process was successful. It got it to work, and you know, like I just said, I have a new video I'm working on. It will come out whenever I get around to it, and super excited with it. Until that next time, later amateurs.